Sam had a conversation with me about the company that you're associated with. So
Yeah,
would you like to just state what you raised?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I should have mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting, but obviously the Northwest proposal, a company I'm associated with works on the corner. It's not actually in the speed zone itself, but it's probably about 300 metres from it. So it's not a conflict, but we just thought we're better to mention it, just be upfront.
So, I mean, anything, and if it were, it's managed by the declaration, so thank
Definitely.
you. And that was a very good example to the team about handling potential, what could be perceived, and it's really just the perception that it could be. But you haven't discussed this matter with Downers in any way, shape or form? Right. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're moving into the discussion now. We've got some, I'd like to invite staff to come forward, and I know that you've done some further consultation. I think it would be helpful though to talk through the sequence of the paper so that we can clarify. There seems to be a difference of views around one of the community boards in terms of one of the recommendations. So if we just talk about the recommendations generally, that where there seems to be agreement, and then we can focus on the one area where there seems to be some issues that we'd like to tease into, and to hear some further advice from staff, and that's the Maclean's Island one. So can I get the standard, all of the other stuff out of the way first, if that's acceptable to people, and then we'll move on to Maclean's Island. Is that all right?
Yep, that's great.
Okay, so if you'd like to just walk us through the Northwest proposed speed management, no, sorry, that is the one, isn't it? The rest of it, and we'll come back to Maclean's Island at the end.
All right. That's just introductions first. To my right, Stephen Thomas, who's the operations manager, and to his right, Steve Jeong, who's the basically the traffic engineer for that particular area. So Steve will give you the overview of what's happened to date, and then speak to the matter around Maclean's Island Road.
Madam Chair, through you, the Northwest proposed speed management plan is basically tidying up speed limits in the northwest of Christchurch. We actually held it back for about a year because it takes in a lot of the state highway as well. So there were some issues around Yoldhurst Village at State Highway 73. That's the bit that you can see on the Ryans Road, Pound Road, Yoldhurst Village plan in the yellow. So NZTA, we're working in with them and dropping the speed limits, proposing to drop the speed limits to 80k in that area. Of particular note is the intersection, which is at the top right of that plan, Ryan's Pound. That's a bit of a black spot intersection there, that we're proposing that the speed limit drop through there. That's page 70. The rest of the Northwest proposed beach management plan tidies up a lot of little anomalies. So if we now look at the location A, that is page 72. That's tidying up the New Bruffs Road extension. That's to the top right of that plan. Bruffs Road used to terminate in a dead end. It now goes through to Maclean's Island Road. That was delivered by NZTA. Previously, it was 100 kilometres an hour. It's been designed as a 50k road. We're proposing that to be 50k. Further little anomaly on that location, Export Ave was caught under the old rural speed limit, and that little wee tiny cul-de-sac is also 100k, so it's just tidying up that. To the top left of that same plan, we're proposing to push the Grays Road change point further down Grays Road, because as folk come round the corner, they're coming round that corner at 80 into a 50 area. There's actually an existing threshold that's been built there that was never used, built by the airport. So we're proposing to use that. The final one on these, down the bottom, is the Dickies Road. Dickies Road this has been delivered again by NZTA when the Northern Arterial went through. They have already moved the change point and it's already signed, so they've actually done that. So that's just, we're recommending what the NZTA have already delivered. The final one before McLean's Island, Parks Unit asked...
Sorry, are we going to take questions on the individual components? Sorry, I forgot that...
more than happy.
I did have a question about this because I noticed that the airport company wanted Broth Road to be, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, not to go down to 50k because they wanted to encourage the use of the bypass for obvious reasons. Can you just talk about that? Because you sort of went over it and said that you were going to, you said that this was naturally to be built at this speed, but it's going to, and I did notice another submission said that it should match the McLean's Island speed of 80k because it hits McLean's Island where it's already 80k.
Yeah. Madam Chair, through you, there were quite some issues with construction of Bruffs Road, so much so that the Parks Unit, the entrance to Rotokahatu, they're looking at changing that. There's some safety issues on the corner. It was actually...
Sorry, which corner?
See the corner
Arms
of
Road.
Sawyer's Arms.
Yeah.
And Bruffs Road.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on those in a minute. The deputation from the Christchurch Airport was a very strange one because they supported the Greys Road.
Yes, I know.
And they opposed, and Bruffs Road was designed at 50k, but when this...
Sorry, when you say design at 50k, and
so
I'm trying to be helpful here so that I can understand.
The civil construction of Bruffs Road,
right.
It was not designed with its curves, its alignment for an 80 kilometre an hour road. It's designed as a 50 kilometre an hour road. NZTA actually there was a court battle right on the Sawyer's Arms, Bruffs Road corner with regard to taking of land. So there was some safety issues raised there. We would have preferred a right turn bay into the northern, because the road swings round now. We would have preferred a right turn bay there.
A right turn bay. Oh, I see. So that you separate the road and you have a separate right turn and a right turn into Sawyer's Arms? Into
the Sawyer's Arms north allow for access to Rotokahatu. That means that the through traffic could just go past on the left. But quite frankly, it's so tight that if a large truck is coming and someone's turning right and the truck has to slow down. So raising that to 80 kilometres an hour would just be a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that's the real reason. It's a safety consideration around the intersection.
Yes. And we've had complaints from trucking operators on Bruffs Road. As soon as Bruffs Road was opened as a through road, they're calling us saying, can you do something about the speed? We actually have signs up signing it as 50 with temporary underneath it because we were so concerned about that. So we have a temporary 50k speed limit on that.
For how long?
It's supposed to only last for 6 months, so it's out of its time now.
So thank you for that. I think it's really helpful, because when you can drill into the submission, and I know that we had the community boards hearing all this, and you've probably now repeated yourself twice. Having repeated it to them, or having explained it to them, but I actually think it's been really helpful for the council to hear that. Yeah. Sorry, Aaron, did you have a question on this?
Yeah, so when Steve presented this, the board members had questions as well, exactly the same as yours.
Yeah.
This is in my ward and have driven around there a number of times. Trucks are often backing out onto the road along there. There's no straight lines.
Yeah.
The staff recommendation is exactly right, and out of all of the recommendations, this one here would be the best one of the whole lot.
Excellent.
Because it's the
excellent.
most safest.
But when our airport company makes a
Yes.
submission, I think it's worth asking the question.
And we did
So
listen to that as well.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. But thank you very much. That is really helpful. Okay, so the next one.
So just going on to Roto Kahatu, that is page 73. That's just basically like a lot of our reserves. It's a proposal to reduce the speed limit because from 50 to 20 kilometres an hour. The urban speed limit, that's the whole of Christchurch, any new road, if the council doesn't set it otherwise, automatically gets caught at 50 kilometres an hour. It includes our parks, roads. That's a gravel road over an old dump.
Yeah.
It has narrowings in it. It just encourages people to do silly things.
Yeah.
So
It's an overwhelmingly supported by submissions. You know, that's a no-brainer as well. Yeah.
Madam Chair, that brings us to the McLean's Island. And if I could just recap on that. So this is page 71. So just at the top right, the existing 80k speed limit is actually about halfway along from that first yellow right angle bend there. So it's halfway between Peacock Springs and that right angle bend. We're proposing that the speed limit on McLean's Island Road gets dropped from 100 kilometres an hour. Now, I point this out, it also includes Chatterton's Road. Right up on the top left, McLean's Island Road finishes at that sharp bend, and then it becomes Chatterton's Road, and the other side of that is actually Selwyn District Council. They support, so Selwyn District Council has looked at this, their transport manager has driven it, and he concurs with exactly what we're proposing here. The proposed 80k speed limit goes round to the Ecan Equestrian Park. The reason for that is because there's a lot of horse trailers that pull out of there. And if you just spend half an hour on the side of the road there, you'll see people will come round that bend and they will just come over the stop bank and they'll boot it. And the first activity they come to is the equestrian park. There's a lot of activities, recreational activities along McLean's Island Road. Travelling at 100 kilometres an hour and you've got somebody behind you, it's actually very hard to see the entrance to a recreational activity. Lots of people overshoot them and you feel pressured. So there have been 4 fatalities, one just up from Downers, one on the stop bank, and strangely enough, 2 just on the eastern edge of Orana Park. A lot of the latest accidents are not on the sharp bends as the McLean's Island, the Orana Park people.
Can we move to the accident chart? Because this was a piece of information. It's Appendix F. It wasn't made available. It wasn't available to the Joint Community Board's meeting. So can we enlarge that a little bit? Yeah, and pull it across.
So that's just showing the accidents spread along McLean's Island Road. A lot of people...
Can you explain what the legends mean?
Okay.
What does F mean?
So F is the fatality.
So there's been 3 fatalities
There's actually one that's actually not showing that's right on that bend outside Downers. There's a little cross there at the moment. So that's right down the bottom. There's 4. There's 4 recorded.
4 fatalities?
Yes.
Over 10 years?
This is since we've been recording, yeah. And there are a lot of the latest accidents are actually loss of control on the...
Can we call them crashes and not accidents,
Yeah, okay.
please? Thank you.
A lot of the recorded crashes, the recent ones, are loss of control on the slight bends, not at the right angle bends or the stop bank. And that came out when I was actually visiting some of the clubs along there. A number of them owned up and said, actually, I've had an accident. I came along here in the winter time, so there were 2 people that had mentioned they had had accidents visiting the clubs. So that, unfortunately that wasn't presented. It was my mistake. I thought I'd sent it. I hadn't.
Okay, so what does M, N and S mean?
Okay, M is minor injury, and S is serious,
Right, and what does N stand for?
non-injury.
Okay. Wow.
It's actually a deceptive piece of road. The
Yeah.
police officer I spoke to the other day said he'd just pulled someone over at 120. Yeah.
Hey? Yeah, I know.
So, if you're happy for me to go on to the consultation,
Sorry, no,
Madam Chair.
it's I think that this hadn't been seen by the submitters, including McLean's Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The information was sent to the Arana Park people. They requested further detailed information that I cannot send because we're not allowed to send details of individual accidents. So they did, because it records the police. When we drill down into an accident to see what caused an accident, we get the police report, and that's not public information. They can see the beg your pardon?
That you've made this
That
data
data
available.
is. So this is just the recorded locations and the type of
Okay.
accident.
All right. Sorry. Go back to the other one. I thought it was useful to make sure that people understood this because I didn't understand that this hadn't been until I reread the thing this morning. So, all right.
The only other thing I would point out, Madam Chair, is that Miners Road is the first 150, 200 metres is sealed. The rest of it is a gravel road. We initially proposed 80 because I felt 60 was a bit slow. That was opposed by NZTA Senior Safety Manager who said, look, it should be 60. I said, look, I'm happy to support that and took it to the boards who also, the joint boards, support the reduction of that to 60 kilometres an hour.
Right. And tell me, where is the boundary with Selwyn? Because it's so funny that you can't see them on the road.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because the boundary is actually the centre of Chatterton's Road.
Right.
So there's a maintenance agreement that they do the whole road. So if this proposal is successful, Selwyn will have to do some changes on Chatterton's Road.
Right.
Yeah. But they're happy for us to do the signing.
But they've made the decision to reduce the speed limit?
Yes. Yes, they haven't put that to their council, but they will follow that up.
And I mean, I've driven down here a few times, and it just seems to me that it isn't an obvious changeover point from from McLean's Island Road to Chatterton's Road.
It's not.
Yeah, you just go round the corner, and then you're on the old West Coast Road. You know, like it's awesome. It's a great bypass. But it's it's okay. So I hadn't appreciated that was the Selwyn boundary, and Selwyn have agreed to reduce the speed limit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Okay, well that puts a different light on it as well. Okay.
So actually, just further to that, Andrew Maisie, the transport manager, he did drive that road and concur with the proposal 80, and he also felt that just terminating the proposed 80 past the equestrian park was the correct location. So following the meeting of the joint boards, staff felt that the opposition from Arana Park was probably more of an outlier. Strangely enough, Arana Park in 2006 had requested us to drop the speed limit on McLean's Island Road. And so it was quite a surprise that they had shifted some animals that were apparently upset by the noise. But the purpose of their opposing it is increased travel time, which works out at about 46 seconds in each direction.
This is for their visitors.
For their staff mainly.
Alright.
And so, look, following the board's recommendation to council to reconsult, because we felt it was an outlier, we did some door knocking, and that is the memo that you requested us to provide, that lists the clubs that were open, and on the 11th and 12th, we actually had a call from the manager of the Isaac Wildlife Trust about boy racer activity in the area, and they support dropping the speed. The McLean's Island Golf Club, the Canterbury Kennel Club, Coringa Golf Club, the Steam Scene, the Vintage Machinery Club, the Vintage Club. There were only people available at the time, and it's not a small thing, the Spare Parts division. The shed is bigger than the meeting room here, and the police that were on duty at the time all support lowering the speed limit to 80 kilometres an hour.
Right. The last question that I've got is around the numbers of submitters on this, because I feel like I've read two different figures. So I went to the public-facing document, which showed 10, 15, 20, 23 submissions, unless I haven't counted them correctly, and it mentions 39. I've just got confused because, I mean, the way that I read it, and admittedly I read the submissions, the summary of submissions rather than the actual submissions, but I thought they were all in the summary.
So, Madam Chair, just to clarify, what we did, and the consultation leader's not here, because this is a joint consultation with NZTA,
Yeah.
a lot of people, so on the Yoldhurst Village speed proposal,
They
a
were
lot of it was
NZTA
split
submissions.
out,
Right.
and they forwarded that to the NZTA board.
Right.
Anything to do with the state highway was forwarded to the NZTA
Great.
board.
Okay, you've explained it. So then my numbers show that of the submissions that focused on McLean's Island Road, 10 voted for, 10 submitted for, a number with significant reasons attached to them, others just simply saying this, it makes absolute sense, or I'm a cyclist and it's safer and blah, 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 a whole lot of reasons. And there were 5 against, so 10 for, 5 against, and 8 of the submissions were focused on other parts of the proposal.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
okay. Right. Okay, any questions of staff? Aaron?
Yeah, just on the crash data, when is that from? And it's obviously up till now.
Yeah, so, beg your pardon?
The crash data, when's the start date of that?
Oh, that goes from the start. So what we've done, look, so it's not just the last 5 years. There has not been a fatality in the last 5 years.
But when did this, this could go back to the 60s, I don't know.
Oh, it goes back to the 70s when we started recording.
70s, okay.
Crashes.
And of the 4 fatalities and the serious crash, were they all driving within the 100k speed limit, or were they exceeding that in the circumstances?
Look, I can't tell you that. I can tell you that the 2 that were outside the Arana Park was one car coming one way and taking out a car coming the other way. People died in both vehicles. It was a family.
But hang on here, there's no fatalities outside Arana Park?
Yeah, there is. There's the 2 that Arana Park's has a long frontage, so it's just to the eastern edge of Arana Park. The 2 fatalities on the...
Well, this map has outside Arana Park, you see the question centre, the fatalities are down by the gravel pit.
Yeah, well, it's just to...
Is this map wrong?
No, Arana Park has quite a frontage there.
Only to the green
Yeah.
belt, that's the change of property, I thought, there for Arana
It
Park.
could be, Aaron.
This
Yeah.
is, this looks like, on here, Steam Scene, maybe,
It could be, yeah.
or even the Kennel Club. Yeah, like most
So
roads.
what's the point? Yeah.
Well, it's context versus
No, no,
content.
no, I mean, the
If
question, your
these
question
but
was.
hang on, if
Yeah.
these are boy races at 3 a.m. doing 150 k an hour, changing the speed limit to 50 k an hour will not save lives. That's my point. Is that, you know, you can have a cul-de-sac where people are having a party
Yeah,
and the kids are riding on the roofs of cars. People
This
die.
is the debate. The question was
Yeah.
appropriately asked about the time frame for the data to be collected, and
Like
so
if this
so
goes
I-
back to the
I-
70s, that was potentially
yes,
a gravel
I was
road.
surprised that it was the 70s. So, I mean, have there been no crashes there, or no crashes at all? But you've just said that you ran into people who told you about crashes that they'd been in.
Yes. Madam Chair, just to clarify that. There have been crashes within the last 5 years, and just on the comment of boy races, a lot of the recent crashes are actually nothing to do with boy races. There is definite boy race activity there. There's black marks all over the road.
Yeah.
The recent crashes, when you drill down into the police data, it's actually been drivers that are not familiar with the road that are getting caught out on the bend. A couple of them, I cannot recall. I think there's so many of them, but when you look at all the crashes, but in the recent times, it's actually been unfamiliar drivers and younger drivers that have just gone off the bend.
Yeah. I mean, it is a tricky road, and it's especially tricky when you're looking for an entranceway. I've been out to visit the Steam Preservation Society, and I've been out to visit I've been to Arana Park. I've been to a number of different things. Actually, Isaac Conservation Trust. And it's an amazing area, but it isn't an easy road to navigate. I do know that. Yeah. All right. So, any other questions for staff? Aaron?
So the other one, and it's one that I asked or had raised at your presentation, Steve, is the majority of crashes here are on the 90-degree bend by the Isaacs, is by far the majority. Yet that's 80 kilometres an hour. It's a 90-degree corner, and yes, they are the speed reduction signs right there, and it tells you to take the corner slower. And then you've got the hump just along where I think it's got that's the other big pile of crashes where it's got the 4 and so on and a fatality. That area there would be better served at 50, 60 kilometres an hour, and then going to either the 80 or 100. So just can you explain to the council why that's not a consideration, given there's two 90-degree corners?
So the speed limit. So the speed limit change now is, like I mentioned previously, it's actually not up at the top. It's about the middle of the north-south bit there on the right. Look, a speed, and you'll see it's a cliche. Speed is not a target. Those corners have the advisory speed for the corner, which you mentioned, Aaron. The advisory speed for that corner, I think one is 25, the other's 35. So that is saying that you should be cornering at 25 or 35. To have a section of 80, 50, 100 is just confusing for motorists. It's not a target. You drive that at 80 kilometres an hour. You don't have to drive at 80 kilometres an hour. You come to the bends, you take them the bend advisory signage tells you to take it.
Right. Is there any other questions? All right. Well, look, I'm going to put.
When it comes to the age of the data and stuff, was that map taken from the CAS system?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
when I'm looking at this now, that's from 1st of January 2000, the CAS system, so it's not the 70s and things.
Yeah.
So the current up-to-date stuff that's McLean's Island Road there with all those dots and things, so it's really similar to the stuff you put up,
Yes.
and it's from 2000, so when the road was sealed and stuff already.
Thanks.
So,
Sarah.
yeah. Thanks.
All right. So
Read.
now, what I'm going to propose is
One,
that
two,
we go through this, actually, we look at, because the area where we have some potential, a potential change is around number 5. So if everyone is agreed, I will ask for the vote on item 5 to be dealt with separately. Are people comfortable with that? So we just deal with.
Yeah.
I haven't got to what I'm going to do in order to, because it's either we now move if I can get a mover and the seconder for the block, but with a change to item 5 to reinstate the recommendation from staff. So, yeah.
I mean, Leon, I don't mind just moving the staff recommendation, and then
Okay.
as a whole.
So,
That's a solid start point, isn't it?
so that is a way through it. So we can.
So if Sam moves the staff recommendation, I'm happy to second
But does
it.
that then? Is that a problem around the Miners Road?
Yes.
Ah, right. Okay, well, what about this? I move the board recommendation with a change
Yeah.
to 5 that says 80 kilometres per hour instead of 100. Correct. No, I do not.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't want another more
So,
minute spent on this.
So what?
I'm happy to move the board recommendation accept with a change to 5, which simply says 80 kilometres per hour, which is in line with the
Yes,
staff
and we
recommendation.
can change that.
And if that fails, then we can deal with it then.
Yeah. Okay. So and we'll deal with item 5 separately because I'll take a separate vote on it because it does
You can
seem
do it
to be
differently. Sure.
a different point
Well,
of
Sam's
view.
actually moved that.
All right. So if we can.
1 to 4 and 6.
So we're going to do items 1, 4 and 6 and then I'm going to take the motion on the original staff recommendation on item 5. So we're going to do 1, 4 and 6. Do I have a mover and seconder?
1 through to 4.
1 through to 4 and 6. All right, so I'm leaving number 5 separate and I've got a foreshadowed motion for that number 5 to be the previous council resolution. Yep. Staff recommendation, yeah. So James and Sam, so I'll open that up for debate. Aaron?
Yeah, fully support this. Steve's done an incredible amount of work through a lot of roads that are very odd at times, some of the layouts and stuff out there. One thing that Steve did highlight to the board and that us locals know about is the Ryans Road Pound Road intersection is in desperate need of an upgrade. My fears are there will be a fatality there before the upgrades are completed. I challenge anyone that's in the area to please go for a drive through so when it does come up you know it well and potentially stand there for a couple of minutes. Do it at a time when a big plane's going in or out, because it's also exciting to stand down there and be right under the flight path. Not quite as cool as that beach that you see on YouTube all the time, but it is still a pretty good location for plane spotting. But it's a horrendous intersection, and it's had a lot of crashes, and I look forward to that being upgraded. But fully support all the items in front of us.
Yep. Anyone else? I just want to say that I want to commend staff for working collaboratively with NZTA. Often when NZTA consultations have to occur, people can get very confused about what is the council's responsibility and what is NZTA's responsibility. And when we get to the next one, we'll know that there's also an issue when you can have a road that meets or has a neighbouring district included in it as well. But so I wanted to really commend staff for working collaboratively with NZTA and undertaking the consultation on their behalf and submitting those submissions through to them. I think that was an incredibly valuable way of undertaking the work, and it meant that the whole project was fully integrated. So yeah, a commendation to staff for what they've done in that area and how they've managed to bring us to this point. So thank you very much. So I'll put the motion All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the recommendation that we approve the permanent speed limit on McLean's Island Road commencing at its intersection with Pound Road and extending generally in a westerly direction to the point it joins Chatterton's Road be set at 80 kilometres per hour as per the original
Staff recommendation.
resolution. So would someone like
I'm happy to move
move
that, or Sam
Madam
is.
Chair,
Either
can I
or.
ask a question of our technical staff first to make sure that covers everything they need?
Is that all you need?
Just noted that when the community board moved that item to number 5, they removed the revoking of the existing speed limit.
Ah, right,
So we wanted
okay.
to add to revoke the existing.
So can we get the revocation from
Thank
the
you,
original
Stefan.
resolution, please? From the original recommendation from staff?
Yep. So I'm happy to move or second the original staff recommendation relating to that stretch of road.
Yep, James, Sam, again,
Yep.
and
So that's
it's not an amendment, this is the,
Yeah, it'd be best thing just to find the right one.
yeah. So can we pull
Just probably.
those original words out? And if we can take the rest of that 5 out? Can you make sure that that goes?
Yeah, I will.
Sorry, 2 6.
So this doing it live, is it?
And set as detailed below, including resultant changes, and then the 2 elements of that. Which are the revocation and the new setting of the rate. And that has been moved by James, seconded by Sam. And,
Councillor wishes to speak?
right, any discussion? James and then Melanie?
Thanks. It's always a bit of a shame when you are disagreeing with a community board recommendation there. So in this instance, I do disagree with the joint community board recommendation, and my position aligns with the staff recommendation. I just think it's logical. It's not excessive. There's a 100k speed limit here, which is being recommended to go to 80k's, and I think it makes perfect sense. You know, McLean's Island Road has evolved significantly over time. There's a long history here with boy races in the area. You'll observe skid marks if you drive down there. Visibility is not great. There's an infamous hump that people sometimes challenge to get air on, and you can when you apply excessive speed. You've got golf clubs, steam train, paintball, kennel club, equestrian club, Orana Park. Look, this is family-focused stuff largely. So I don't think that dropping from 100 k's to 80 k's in an area where there's a number of attractions geared towards families with some less than desirable features in the road, such as the humps and the blind corners. No one's recommending it go to 30 k's or anything like this. It's a 20k reduction. And to be perfectly honest, I was disappointed to hear that Orana Park, that I think they do a great job, they're an asset to the city, but a 40-second longer trip for staff there, look, it'll take a heck of a lot longer if you're dead, and I certainly would never forgive anyone or accept that excuse if a family member of mine or someone that I cared about was on that stretch of road. So I completely agree with staff here. I think it's sensible and pragmatic, and I hope that the council makes a sensible and pragmatic decision too and supports the 80 k's over 100.
Yeah. Thank you. Melanie?
Yeah, I support James with that. This is probably the wrong time to say this because it's more of a question, but I just wanted to make sure that where it says to the point it joins Chatterton's covers the bit that's on Chatterton's. I know you talked about it before. Because we are doing partway along Chatterton's Road. And I know they talked about Selwyn. I just want to make sure that that's correct.
Yes, so Chatterton Road is covered under the previous part of it, so there's other clauses around Chatterton Road, and then the wording around that is enough to cover that section.
So Chatterton's was already included in the original. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, cool.
Sorry, who else? Aaron?
Pointless, but I'll give it a go. And the reason why I voted with the community board on this was based on the deputation. When the original proposal came to the joint community board meeting, I agreed with the staff recommendation. I don't disagree with it. I use it quite a bit out there, so I know the road well. I went and looked at all the roads that were recommended for speed changes. They all made sense. Including this, until we got our deputation from Orana Park, who made a very compelling case on a number of issues, and then the community board made a recommendation. So the community board listened to the deputations, then made the recommendation based on that. So we listened to our community and come up with the recommendation we did. And it was interesting that we said to go back out and consult. And for a council that loves consulting, it's surprising that everyone's not happy to go and consult a little more, but not the case. When such a valued attraction to our city, who also are part of an international breeding program of endangered species, comes in and pleads a particular case, that also included asking the visitors, so consulting with the visitors of Orana Park as well, what they thought. So obviously, as a council, will override what the community board had to say. So you've got to question going forward the value of having those deputations to the community board. Send it straight to council. Don't waste the community's time. Don't waste organisations who have limited resources like Orana Park's time by making them go and speak to a community board who will make a recommendation that will just get bounced at this table. Go straight to the big table and have the chat there and sideline the community boards a little more.
Mike?
Thank you. I guess from a councillor that just voted about going out for consultation on the annual plan, that's quite a surprising comment you make. And when we look at the submission from Orana Park, they actually make the point that they're unaware of any crashes or issues on this section of the road that has led to this review. Clearly, the data shows that there has been a significant amount of crashes that have occurred, including fatalities. Following the board's recommendation, we know that obviously staff have gone out and consulted with businesses down there. You make a point about talking about the visitors of Orana Park, and I guess where do you stop? Do all the people that go to McLean's Island Park, do you start consulting with some of the victims' families down there and see what they think about the speed limit? I think this has actually been a good process to get to this end point. We all know what the impact of speed has on crashes, and actually just dropping the speed limit alone with doing no other changes makes a dramatic decrease in the chance of crash happening that will cause the fatality. So I'm really happy that I think the majority of council will actually support this recommendation up here to drop the speed limit to 80. It makes complete sense. I think as a council road controlling authority, when we're faced with this type of data, we need to put politics to the side and make the right decisions for the communities and the road users that actually drive on our roads. It's unacceptable to see the amount of people that are having serious injuries or dying on our roads at this time.
Yanni, Andrew.
Thank you. I agree with...
I said Yanni, Andrew.
Oh, sorry.
He had his hand up first. You go. Do you want to put the clock up or no? I won't be that long. I'll just say, like, you know, I just wanted to just support what Councillor Kieran had said. You know, often I've been attacked by this council for having a different view on what the community board's done, and it said we should support our local community boards. You've got a local community board who's heard the deputation, spent the time looking at the issue, and they've come to a majority decision. So I personally have no issue with the community board wanting to go out and do more engagement over it, and it may be that they come back with a different recommendation based on that. But, you know, the fact that we've spent so much time on this at a council, so much time at a community board, and now we're going to overturn possibly what the community board has asked for, I just don't find a good process. So I'll be supporting this going back to the community board for more work, and I don't feel that it's right for us to overturn their decision today.
Andrew?
Thank you. I agree with just about everything that Mike and a number of others have said. There are two issues here. The first of which is the outcome. Is the 80k speed limit the correct outcome at the end of this debate? And my belief is that it is. And the other issue, which has been raised by a number of colleagues, is the level of respect that we have for the community board recommendation as it came out of the meeting, and the way that we deal with that. Now, we need to always bear in mind that a recommendation coming out of a community board meeting on Part A is exactly that, and there have been examples where council has not supported a recommendation coming out of a community board meeting, and we need to remember that we do have the ability to do that. I'd like to think that when that happens, it's always done respectfully, and I think in this case it is. The community board clearly felt more work needed to be done. That's why they expressed a desire for further consultation. More work has been done. I'm certainly comfortable in the way that that work has been carried out. I'm confident that the results of that work support the recommendation that I agree with for the 80k speed limit, and I think it's been done in a way that that addresses the matter as it was raised at the community board. It deals with it in a way that's respectful and that leads us to the conclusion, which in my case means I'll be supporting what's now in front of us today.
Sam, then Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I won't speak for too long, but I think we just need to clarify. I mean, we have listened to the community board. Yeah. This is a logical decision. It's not unreasonable to drop it from 100 to 80. In fact, I drive that road quite a bit, and 80 actually feels normal. Like I said earlier on, I'm not someone that believes in reducing speed limits for the sake of it. I think this is quite a logical decision. So, I mean, I think we should just get on with it today. We don't need to consult again. The reality is we over-consult as a council anyway, and we actually at some stage just need to make a decision. So I think people should support it.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank staff initially for the additional really quick work that you've done since the community board meeting, and the way that you were able to go and door knock and re-engage with the community as the community board wanted. And so actually the organisation has followed what the board recommended. It's re-engaged, gone out, talked with those, it's got the additional information. One of the things that this does show though is that we do need to make sure that when we send things out for engagement and out for consultation, that we do have full and accurate information so that those people who are submitting actually have the good information in front of them, the crash data statistics, the information on the impact of speeds, not just saying that it's safer, but saying what percentage it's safer. There's NZTA have got great graphs, we've used them before, and making sure that that happens. We have listened to we've listened to the community board and we agree with 95% or more of what they've said. But the whole point about speed reductions coming to council is that we have a really large transport network that as a council we're responsible for, and making consistent decisions and safe decisions across the city on behalf of all residents is a councillor's job, and a community board job is to advocate for their local community, and we have to make sure that we're wearing the right hats when we make those decisions. And of course, those councillors who are really concerned about council efficiency and duplication will be really pleased that staff were able to go out and do what the community board wanted, and that we won't have an additional 2 reports taking up staff time and energy and money, one to go to the community board and another one to come back to council again, and so that's why I'll be supporting it today.
Who? Anyone else? Well, I'll just say a couple of words, and it was just simply that in this instance, staff rightly sensed that one submitter who seemed to persuade the majority of the community board on the day was an outlier, and so staff went out of their own initiative in order to comply with the requirement of the resolution, which was to reconsult with businesses and user groups along Maclean's Island Road. I know that the resolution said including visitors to the Arana Wildlife Park, but I don't know how you'd classify them as a group. I've been a visitor to Arana Wildlife Park group. Has anyone else around the table been out to Wildlife Park? Well, there you go. There's a classic cross-section of society that have all been elected to represent their members, so we can include ourselves in that today. But look, and I'm not undermining that. I understand why Arana Park have made that comment. I was surprised to see and hear that it was about extended travel time for their staff, when reducing 100 k's to 80 k is not going to put a large amount of travel time for just that section of road. And it's possibly because they're driving there early in the morning when there isn't much traffic. I don't know, but I have driven in there at a time when a major event was on at the STEAM Society, or Preservation Society, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, and I wasn't sure where the turn-off was, and it is exactly as staff have described. It is a tricky road to navigate, especially with the greater use of trucks and trailers in that area, and horse floats. You know, people have made the comment about caravans using this as an opportunity to sideline areas, and actually I want them to use that to sideline areas, you know, because we don't want them coming in across the city if we can avoid it. If they can go that back route, it is a very good way to get on their way when they're travelling south, so or travelling north. So I think that the intention of the you know, the link point that it creates, it does attract a certain type of traffic, and I think the 80k zone is much safer for the area, and we do need to have safety in our mind when we consider it. And I did consider the question of the submissions. I went back to all of them. 10 submissions were for the change, 5 were against, and 8 of them didn't mention it in their submission because they were focused on other parts. So actually the majority of people who submitted on the road, who took the time and effort, plus staff have added to that with all the additional people that they've talked to, we've actually got a very clear message that this is a decision that needs to be made, and no, we don't need to waste any more time on it. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And that's Councillor Kewen and Johansson opposed.